This is a revoiced version of Cambridge IELTS Academic Book 19 Listening Test 1. In this video we're going to look at the questions, listen to some revoiced audio samples and then go over the answers. So let's get started. First of all, part 1, questions 1 to 10, and read the instructions carefully. It says write one word and or a number for each answer. First, let's look at questions 1 to 6. So the title of this listening piece is Hinchinbrook Country Park. And number 1, area something hectares, so we must be looking for a number there. There's habitats, wetland, grassland and woodland. And in the wetland section it has lakes, ponds and a what? Pond is a small lake, so these are both water features. And then some examples of wildlife. Then into the next section, subjects studied in educational visits include science, and children look at something about plants, etc. What could that be? What about plants might they look at? Then geography includes lessons learning how to use a something and a compass. What might they use in geography? Then we've got a bit about history. Then leisure and tourism mostly concentrates on the park's what, so something belonging to the park. And finally, question 6, music. Children make something with natural materials and experiment with rhythm and speed. Now let's listen and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning. Hinchinbrook Country Park, Sally speaking. I'm one of the rangers.
Oh, hello. My name's John Chapman, and I'm a teaching assistant at a local primary school. I've been asked to arrange a visit to the park for 2 of our classes.
Okay, what would you like to know?
Well, I'm new to this area, so perhaps you could tell me something about the park first, please.
Of course. Altogether, the park covers 170 acres, that's 69 hectares. There are 3 main types of habitat: wetland, grassland, and woodland. The woods are well established and varied, with an oak plantation and other areas of mixed species.
Right?
The wetland is quite varied, too. The original farmland was dug up around 40 years ago to extract gravel. Once this work was completed, the gravel pits filled with water, forming the 2 large lakes. There are also several smaller ones, ponds, and a stream that flows through the park.
Okay, so I suppose with these different habitats, there's quite a variety of wildlife.
There certainly is. A lot of different species of birds and insects, and also animals like deer and rabbits.
And I understand you organize educational visits for school parties.
That's right. We can organize a wide range of activities and adapt them to suit all ages.
Can you give me some examples of the activities?
Well, one focus is on science, where we help children to discover and study plants, trees, and insects. They also collect and analyze data about the things they see. Another focus is on geography. The park is a great environment to learn and practice reading a map and using a compass to navigate around the park.
Do you do anything connected with history?
Yes, we do. For instance, the children can explore how the use of the land has changed over time. Then there's leisure and tourism.
That focuses on your visitors, I would imagine.
Yes, mostly. The children find out about them, their requirements, the problems they may cause, and how we manage these. And another subject we cover is music. Here the children experiment with natural materials to create sounds and explore rhythm and tempo.
That must be fun.
Most children really enjoy it.
Right, how did we do with those? Let's have a look at the answers then. And we're going to have a look at the transcript to see where the answers are. So number 1, it said the park covers 170 acres, that's 69 hectares. So they've put in a wrong answer there to try and confuse people, 170, but we need the number of hectares. This is just an area of land, and 69 is the answer that we need. The second question talks about the lakes, ponds, and a stream. A stream is a word for a small river, a very small river. So that's the answer we're looking for here. Next, we were talking about trees, insects. They analyse data about things they see. So the question talked about children look at something about plants, etc., and so on. So look at, analyse, data is the answer we need. On to the next one. It says they practice reading a map. The question said learning to use a something. Map goes in there. Number 4. Then number 5, that focuses on your visitors. The question used the phrase concentrates on, and we had to listen out for focuses on. And visitors is the right answer. Then number 6, they create sounds and explore rhythm and tempo. So it mentions rhythm and speed. Speed is another word for tempo, but they make sounds. Number 6 there, sounds. Let's just confirm those answers. Now with number 1, you could write the number 69 or the words 69. Both are acceptable. Then we have stream, data, map, visitors, and sounds. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Now let's look at questions 7 to 10. The benefits of outdoor educational visits. They give children a feeling of what? Then children learn new something and gain self-confidence. Then number 9, we're looking at the cost per child, and we have a pound sign there in the question, so we don't need to write the pounds, we're just looking for the number of pounds. And then adults, such as something free. So we're looking for an example of perhaps the job that the adult might do. Right, let's listen to this and answer questions 7 to 10.
And of course, all the activities are educational too. Learning outside the classroom encourages children to be creative and to explore and discover for themselves.
I would imagine they get a sense of freedom that might not be a normal part of their lives.
That's right. And very often the children discover that they can do things they didn't know they could do, and they develop new skills. This gives them greater self-confidence.
It sounds great. So what about the practical side of it? How much does it cost for a full-day visit? We would expect to bring between 30 and 40 children.
If there are over 30, it costs £4.95 for each child who attends on the day. We invoice you afterwards, so you don't pay for children who can't come because of sickness, for example. There's no charge for leaders and other adults, as many as you want to bring.
That sounds very fair. Well, thanks for all the information. I'll need to discuss it with my colleagues, and I hope to get back to you soon to make a booking.
We'll look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you.
Now let's have a look at the transcript to see what the answers for these parts should be. So first of all, we had the word freedom we're looking for. It says a sense of freedom was the phrase, and in the question it said a feeling of something. So a feeling of, a sense of is the same. For number 8, children learn new skills. Here we've got they develop new skills, they said. Then we had the price per child, £4.95. So if you write it like 4.95. And then adults such as leaders. No charge. What did the question say? Free. Okay. Yeah, so free means no charge. Adults such as, we're looking for an example, group leaders there. Okay, very good. Now let's move on to, let's just confirm those. First of all, freedom, skills, £4.95, leaders. Let's move on to part 2 now. So section 2 is about Stanthorpe Twinning Association. So twinning is where you have two towns in different countries that form a kind of relationship. Your hometown may well have a twin town in another country. And these are multiple choice questions, so you need to choose the correct letter, A, B or C, for questions 11 to 15. Let's look at the first 3 questions of these. During the visit to Malate in France, members especially enjoyed what? Going to a theme park, experiencing a river trip, or visiting a cheese factory. Now, the word especially is quite important here because they may well have done all 3 things, but which one did they really enjoy? Number 12. What will happen in Stanthorpe to mark the 25th anniversary of the Twinning Association? Okay, so 3 different options there. A tree planted, garden seat to be bought, or a footbridge will be built. And then 13, which event raised most funds this year? Was it the film show, the pancake evening, or the cookery demonstration? And again, most funds is key to this one. They may all have produced some funds. Which one was the most? Let's listen and answer these 3 questions.
It's great to see so many members of the Twinning Association here tonight. Since the twinning link between our 2 towns, Stanthorpe here in England and Malate in France, was established, the relationship between the towns has gone from strength to strength. Last month, 25 members of the association from Stanthorpe spent a weekend in Malate. Our hosts had arranged a great program. We learned how cheese is produced in the region and had the chance to taste the products. The theme park trip had to be cancelled, but we all had a great time on the final boat trip down the river. That was the real highlight. This is a special year for the association because it's 25 years since we were founded. In Malate, they're planning to mark this by building a footbridge in the municipal park. We've been discussing what to do here, and we've decided to plant a poplar tree in the museum gardens. We considered buying a garden seat to put there, but the authorities weren't happy with that idea. In terms of fundraising to support our activities, we've done very well. Our pancake evening was well attended and made record profits, and everyone enjoyed the demonstration of French cookery, which was nearly as successful. Numbers for our film show were limited because of the venue, so we're looking for somewhere bigger next year.
Now let's look at questions 14 and 15. So 14, for the first evening with the French visitors, host families are advised to A, take them for a walk around the town, B, go to a local restaurant, or C, have a meal at home. And then 15, on Saturday evening, there will be a chance to A, listen to a concert, that means live music, B, watch a match, football match, for example, or C, take part in a competition. So let's listen to the final part and answer those 2.
We're looking forward to welcoming our French visitors here next week, and I know that many of you here will be hosting individuals or families. The coach from France will arrive at 5 p.m. on Friday. Don't try to do too much that first evening, as they'll be tired. So have dinner in the house or garden rather than eating out. The weather looks as if it'll be okay, so you might like to plan a barbecue. Then the next morning's market day in town, and that's always a good place to stroll round. On Saturday evening, we'll all meet up at the football club, where once again, we'll have Toby Sharp and his band performing English and Scottish country songs. Toby will already be well known to many of you, as last year he organized our special quiz night and presented the prizes.
Right, let's have a look at the transcript and see the answers to these questions. So the first one, it talked about learning how cheese is produced. So they may have gone to the cheese factory, but it didn't say how much they enjoyed it. They didn't go to the theme park, that was cancelled. However, the boat trip on the river was the real highlight. So we're looking for the one about the boat trip. Highlight means it was the best part. Then the second question, what are they going to do in Stanthorpe? Now, they are going to build a footbridge, but that is in Malate, not in Stanthorpe. And then they did consider buying a garden seat, but decided not to. So they said, we've decided to plant a poplar tree. Poplar is just a kind of tall, thin tree in the museum garden. So that is the correct answer, plant a tree. Then the next one, which activity made the most money? Well, the pancake evening made record profits. Record profits suggests it's the most amount of money. The cookery demonstration was nearly as successful, but not quite. Therefore, it was the second best. And the film show doesn't say how much it made, but we know that not many people were able to go. So pancake evening was correct for that one. Then the fourth question, what to do? They should have dinner in the house rather than eating out. So have dinner at home. Yes. Go to a restaurant? No. And when it said take them for a walk around town, that's suggested for the next morning, not on the first evening. And then the last question here, what are they going to do on Saturday night? The key phrase here was, we'll have Toby Sharp and his band performing some songs. So that is the definition of a concert. They didn't say they were going to watch a match, but they said they were going to meet at the football club. So there's not a match on, but they're going there to watch the concert. There's no competition, but last year he did organise a quiz, which is a type of competition. So just to recap, for 11, the correct answer was B. 12, the answer was A. And 13, the answer was B. 14, we're looking for C. And 15 is A. Right, so the next part, still in section 2, questions 16 to 20, there is a map, and we need to choose the correct letter, A to H, beside questions 16 to 20. And the title of the map is Farley House. Okay, so here is the map that we're given. It's got a house, some other buildings, a selection of paths. There's a big car park towards the south. There's a large lake and a small lake, and a couple of areas of woodland. There's a compass there in the top corner that shows which way is north, south, east and west. We will need to be aware of that because sometimes they'll refer to the compass directions. And then we have several letters, A to H, of locations. So what we need to do is listen and decide which letter is the position of these five places. There's a farm shop, disabled entry, adventure playground, kitchen gardens, and the Temple of the Four Winds, which sounds lovely. So let's listen and decide which letter refers to which location.
Now, on Sunday, we'll be taking our visitors to Farley House. You may not all be familiar with it, so here's a map to help you. You can see the car park at the bottom of the map. There's an excellent farm shop in the grounds where our visitors can buy local produce. It's in the old stables, which is the first building you come to. They're built round a courtyard, and the shop's in the far corner on the left. There's also a small cafe on the right as you go in. I know that one or two of our visitors may not be all that mobile. The main entrance to the house has a lot of steps, so you might want to use the disabled entry. This is on the far side of the house from the car park. Children will probably be most interested in the adventure playground. That's at the northern end of the larger lake, in a bend on the path that leads to the lake. There's lots for children to do there. There are a number of lovely gardens near the house. The kitchen gardens are rectangular and surrounded by a wall. They're to the northeast of the house, quite near the smaller lake. They're still in use and have a great collection of fruit and vegetables. The Temple of the Four Winds is a bit more of a walk, but it's worth it. Take the path from the car park and go past the western sides of the stables and the house. Then when the path forks, take the right-hand path. Go up there with the woods on your left, and the temple is right at the end. There are great views over the whole area. Okay, so that's it.
Right, some of those are a little bit tricky. Let's have a look at the transcript. So first we were looking for the farm shop, There's an excellent farm shop, it says. Okay. It's in the old stables and in the top and the far corner on the left. So if we look here, the old stables is this building near the car park, and in the corner on the left, that is G. So farm shop G. Next, disabled entry. This is on the far side of the house from the car park. So looking here, there's the car park. The far side has to be over here. So that entrance is C. 17C. 18 is the adventure playground. And this said that's at the northern end of the large lake in a bend on the path that leads to the lake. So here we can see from the compass, north is up here. Northern end of the lake in a bend in the path. Here's a bend here going around. B. So 18 is option B. 19, the kitchen gardens. Now it said that the kitchen gardens are rectangular and surrounded by a wall. It also adds that they're to the northeast of the house near the small lake. So all of that leads to option D. Rectangular, surrounded by a wall in the northeast of the house near the small lake. And finally, number 20, the Temple of the Four Winds. This one's quite complicated. It says, take the path from the car park and go past the western side of the stables and house. So there's the car park. We're going to go by the western side of the stables and house. That means we're going up this path here. Then it says, when the path forks, that means when it divides into two, take the right-hand path. Go up there with the woods on your left, and the temple is at the end. Right at the end just means very much so at the end, not turn right. Okay, so here is the fork beside B. We're going to take the right-hand one. The woods will be on our left. So A is the answer for Temple of the Four Winds. 20 should be A. Let's just confirm all of those answers. So 16G, 17C, 18B, 19D, and 20A. Okay, moving on to part 3, and this starts with questions 21 to 24. 21 and 22, you need to choose two letters A and E. Now, it doesn't matter if you put them in either order. So if the for example, if the answers were A and B, it doesn't matter if you put AB or BA. They're both okay. You just need to choose which two are correct. So let's look at those a bit more closely. For 21 and 22, you need to choose which two things Colin found the most satisfying about his bread reuse project. Satisfying, this is a positive emotion. Which ones were most positive? Was it receiving support from local restaurants, finding a way to prevent waste, overcoming problems in basic process, experimenting with designs and colours, or learning how to apply 3D printing? Okay, they all sound plausible, but only two of them will be correct. And 23 and 24, which two ways did the students agree that touch-sensitive sensors for food labels could be developed in future? Agree is important here because one of them might have one opinion and the other one disagrees, but only two of them they will agree on. Is it A, for use on medical products, B, to show that food is no longer fit to eat, C, for use with drinks as well as foods, D, to provide applications for blind people, or C, to indicate the weight of certain foods? We also need to be aware of this phrase in the future in the question and make sure that is also in the answer. Let's listen and find the answers to 21 to 24.
I haven't seen you for a bit. Marie,
No, I've been busy with my project.
you're making a vegan alternative to eggs, aren't you? Something that doesn't use animal products?
Yes, I'm using chickpeas. I had two main aims when I first started looking for an alternative to eggs, but actually I found chickpeas have got more advantages.
Right?
But how about your project on reusing waste food? You were looking at bread, weren't you?
Yes. It's been hard work, but I've enjoyed it. The basic process was quite straightforward. breaking the stale bread down to a paste, then reforming it.
But you were using 3D printing, weren't you, to make the paste into biscuits?
Yeah, I'd used that before, but in this project, I had time to play around with different patterns for the biscuits and finding how I could add fruit and vegetables to make them a more appetizing color. And I was really pleased with what I managed to produce.
It must have been a great feeling to make something appetizing out of bits of old bread that would have been thrown away otherwise.
It was, and I'm hoping that some of the restaurants in town will be interested in the biscuits. I'm going to send them some samples.
I came across something on the internet yesterday that might interest you. It was a company that's developed touch-sensitive sensors for food labels. It's a special sort of label on the food package. When the label's smooth, the food is fresh, and then when you can feel bumps on the label, that means the food's gone bad. It started off as a project to help visually impaired people know whether food was fit to eat or not.
Interesting. So just solid food?
No, things like milk and juice as well. But actually, I thought it might be really good for drug storage in hospitals and pharmacies.
Right? And coming back to food, maybe it'd be possible to use it for other things besides freshness, like how many kilograms a joint of meat is, for example.
Yes, there's all sorts of possibilities.
Okay, let's have a look at the answers to these four questions. Okay, for 21 and 22, you should have chosen B and D. So let's just look at this. A cannot be correct because he was hoping to receive support in the future. So that can't be satisfying because it hasn't happened yet. C, overcoming problems in a basic process. E, learning how to apply 3D printing. He said he already knew how to do that. But he did like different designs that the printer was using and adding fruits and vegetables to change the colour. Then on to 23 and 24. So again, in the future, it is currently used to show that food is no longer fit to eat, and it can be used on drinks as well. And they are already applications for blind people. So B, C, and D already exist. But for the future, it might be used on medical products, and it might show the weight of foods. So A and E were the correct answers there. Next, questions 25 to 30. The instructions ask, what is the student's opinion about each of the following food trends? So we're going to see 6 food trends. What are their opinions? You need to choose the correct letter, A to H, next, and write that next to the questions. Okay. So the opinions that we have to choose from, A to H. A, this is only relevant to young people, so it's not important for older people. B, this may have disappointing results, so whatever happens, it's not that good. C, this already seems to be widespread, so something that's already happens everywhere. D, retailers should do more to encourage this. Retailers, shops, or people who sell things. E, more financial support is needed for this. Financial support needs more money. F, most people know little about this. Little here means not much. G, there should be stricter regulations about this. So something about the laws need to be enforced. And H, this could be dangerous. Let's look then at the different food trends. So for each of these, we need to choose a letter A to H. 25, use of local products. 26, reduction in unnecessary packaging. 27, gluten-free and lactose-free food. 28, use of branded products related to celebrity chefs. 29, development of ghost kitchens for takeaway food. and 20 and 30, use of mushrooms for common health concerns. Let's listen to the audio and choose the correct letter for each food trend.
I was reading an article about food trends predicting how eating habits might change in the next few years.
Oh, things like more focus on local products? That seems so obvious, but the shops are still full of imported foods.
Yes, they need to be more proactive to address that.
And somehow motivate consumers to change. Yes.
One thing everyone's aware of is the need for a reduction in unnecessary packaging. But just about everything you buy in supermarkets is still covered in plastic. The government needs to do something about it.
Absolutely. It's gotta change.
Do you think there'll be more interest in gluten-free and lactose-free food?
For people with allergies or food intolerances? I don't know. Lots of people I know have been buying that type of food for years now.
Yes, even if they haven't been diagnosed with an allergy.
That's right. One thing I've noticed is the number of branded products related to celebrity chefs. People watch them cooking on TV and then buy things like spice mixes or frozen foods with the chef's name on. I bought something like that once, but I won't again.
Yeah. I bought a ready-made spice mix for chicken, which was supposed to be used by a chef I'd seen on television, and it didn't actually taste of anything.
Did the article mention ghost kitchens used to produce takeaway food?
No, what are they?
Well, they might have the name of a restaurant, but actually they're a cooking facility just for delivery meals. The public don't ever go there. But people aren't aware of that. It's all kept very quiet.
So people don't realize the food's not actually from the restaurant.
That's right.
Did you know more and more people are using all sorts of different mushrooms now to treat different health concerns? Things like heart problems?
They might be taking a big risk there.
Yes, it's hard to know which varieties are safe to eat. Anyway, maybe now...
Hopefully you've got some answers there. So let's have a look at the transcript and see what we should have chosen and why. Now, first of all, we need to notice that each of these food trends is mentioned by name first, and then it tells you the opinion. So let's look at that. Okay, so first of all, it mentions local products and then talks about the shops, that's the retailers, need to be more proactive. Okay, so retailers should do more to encourage this. Being proactive is encouraging something. So 25, the correct answer is D. Then we had a reduction in unnecessary packaging. And the key phrase for this one is the government needs to do something about it. If we look at the options, the government imposes regulations, so there should be stricter regulations about this, is the one about the government, 26G. Then gluten-free and lactose-free food is the next one, that's mentioned here. And we have the phrase, lots of people I know have been buying that type of food for years now. Okay, so that would suggest that it already seems to be widespread. So C is the best option for 27. Then branded products are related to celebrity chefs. We can hear celebrity chefs there. And then they talk about, I bought it once but I won't buy it again, and it didn't actually taste of anything. So they both sound like they're quite disappointed by the results. Therefore B is the correct answer there. Next we had development of ghost kitchens, number 29. So we have ghost kitchens here, and it later then said people aren't aware of that. Okay, so people aren't aware. Most people know little about this. F is the best option for 29. And finally 30, use of mushrooms for common health issues. It talked about mushrooms and health concerns, health issues, and it said their opinions was they might be taking a big risk, and also it's hard to know which are safe to eat. So if we look for big risk is the same as dangerous, and safe is an antonym of dangerous. So H is the correct answer for 30. So let's just reconfirm all of those. 25D, 26G, 27C, 28B, 29F, and 30H. Right, we're now on to the final part, part 4, which is questions 31 to 40. And again, be very careful with the instructions. Write one word only for each answer. If you're writing 2 words, it's not going to be correct. So make sure you choose the best one. And the title of this piece is Cambridge Fields. Now this is an Irish place and an Irish word, so it's in Celtic language, Irish Gaelic. So when you first see that, it's got the accent over the E, you might not have any idea how it's pronounced. But don't let that worry you. It also gives you an instruction that it's an important Neolithic archaeological site in the northwest of Ireland. So it gives you a little bit of background there. Now let's look at the questions. So first we're going to look at 31 to 34, and it's about the discovery of Cambridge Fields. Okay, a local teacher realised that stones beneath the bog surface were once what? So the stones, what could they have been before? Then something became an archaeologist and undertook an investigation on the site. His what? Okay, this is the 1930s, so that's a long time ago. What could it have been? He was a teacher as well, might be a clue. Then 33, a traditional method used by people to dig for what was used to identify where stones were located. What could they be digging for? Maybe for food or something. And then 34, items are well preserved in the bog because of a lack of what? Lack of means not enough, or there's something missing. So what might there not be in the bog? Let's listen to this section and answer questions 31 to 34.
For my presentation today, I'm going to talk about the Cambridge Fields in the northwest of Ireland, one of the largest Neolithic sites in the world. I recently visited this site and observed the work that is currently being done by a team of archaeologists there. The site was first discovered in the 1930s by a local teacher, Patrick Caulfield. He noticed that when local people were digging in the bog, they were constantly hitting against what seemed to be rows of stones. He realized that these must be walls and that they must be thousands of years old for them to predate the bog which subsequently grew over them. He wrote to the National Museum in Dublin to ask them to investigate, but no one took him seriously. It wasn't until 40 years later, when Patrick Caulfield's son Seamus, who had become an archaeologist by then, began to explore further. He inserted iron probes into the bog to map the formation of the stones, a traditional method which local people had always used for finding fuel buried in the bog for thousands of years. Carbon dating later proved that the site was over 5,000 years old and was the largest Neolithic site in Ireland. Thanks to the bog, which covers the area, the remains of the settlement at Cambridge Fields, which is over 5,000 years old, are extremely well preserved. A bog is 90% water. Its soil is so saturated that when the grasses and heathers that grow on its surface die, they don't fully decay but accumulate in layers. Objects remain so well preserved in these conditions because of the acidity of the peat and the deficiency of oxygen. At least 175 days of rain a year are required for this to happen. This part of Ireland gets an average of 225 days.
Let's have a look at the transcript for these. So for 31, he realised that these must be walls. So the rows of stones were once walls. That's the answer there. The next one, we had Patrick Caulfield's son Seamus had become an archaeologist. So if we look at this, his son became an archaeologist. There we go. And then 33, it's a traditional method which local people had always used for finding fuel buried in the bog. Fuel, the correct answer there for number 33. A traditional method used by local people to dig for or for finding fuel. And 34, we have the phrase deficiency of oxygen. Deficiency means not enough, same as lack of. And then oxygen is the correct answer for 34. Let's just confirm those. 31 walls, 32 sun, 33 fuel, 34 oxygen. Then the next section, 35 to 38, about Neolithic farmers. Houses were what in shape and had a hole in the roof? So this suggests that number 35, the answer must be a type of shape. 36, pots were used for storage and to make what? Then 37, each field at Caja was large enough to support a big what? And then 38, no evidence of structures to house them during what? So them there meaning animals. Okay, let's listen and answer questions 35 to 38.
The Neolithic farmers at Caja would have enjoyed several centuries of relative peace and stability. Neolithic farmers generally lived in larger communities than their predecessors, with a number of houses built around a community building. As they lived in permanent settlements, Neolithic farmers were able to build bigger houses. These weren't round as people often assume, but rectangular with a small hole in the roof that allowed smoke to escape. This is one of many innovations and indicates that the Neolithic farmers were the first people to cook indoors. Another new technology that Neolithic settlers brought to Ireland was pottery. Fragments of Neolithic pots have been found in Caja and elsewhere in Ireland. The pots were used for many things, as well as for storing food. Pots were filled with a small amount of fat, and when this was set alight, they served as lamps. It's thought that the Caja fields were mainly used as paddocks for animals to graze in. Evidence from the Caja fields suggests that each plot of land was of a suitable size to sustain an extended family. They may have used a system of rotational grazing in order to prevent overgrazing and to allow for plant recovery and regrowth. This must have been a year-round activity, as no structures have been found which would have been used to shelter animals in the winter.
Right, hopefully you've got 4 words there for these ones. Let's look at the transcript and find the answers. So first of all, the houses weren't round, as some people would assume. So reading the question, you might have thought we were looking for round. Actually, they were rectangular, like an elongated square shape, with a small hole. Next, it asked about the pots. Yes, they were used for storing food, but they served as lamps. So to make served as lamps, there is the answer for 36. 37, they could sustain an extended family. The question says they could support a big what? So support, sustain, big, extended family goes in here, 37. Then 38, there was no evidence of structures to house them during winter. Okay, no structures have been found. So there we go, nothing there. Winter, the correct answer for 38. Let's just confirm those. 35 rectangular, 36 lamps, 37 family, and 38 winter. I should remind you at this point that spelling in the listening test is critical. So rectangular, a fairly difficult word to spell, but if you spelled it wrongly, you will not get the point. It must be correct. Rectangle, for example, would not be right. Next, okay, the last 2 questions, reasons for the decline in farming. Let's listen and find the answers to 39 and 40. 39 is a decline in something quality, decline is going down, and then an increase in something for number 40, increase is going up.
However, archaeologists believe that this way of life at Keja ceased abruptly. Why was this? Well, several factors may have contributed to the changing circumstances. The soil would have become less productive and led to the abandonment of farming. The crop rotation system was partly responsible for this, as it would have been very intensive and was not sustainable. But there were also climatic pressures too. The farmers at Keja would have enjoyed a relatively dry period, but this began to change, and the conditions became wetter as there was a lot more rain. It was these conditions that encouraged the bog to form over the area, which survives today. So now I'd like to show you some...
Okay, that's the end of the listening piece. Let's have a look at the transcript and find the answers to the last two questions. So for the first one of these last two, the soil would have become less productive. Is important here. The question talks about decrease, that's less quality, less productive. So it's soil quality we're looking for. And the last one, an increase in, is a lot more rain. So the last two answers, soil and rain. Let's just confirm those. 39 soil, 40 rain. Okay, that is the end of the test. Now at this point you would have time to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet if you're doing the written version of the test. Here are all of the answers to the full test as taken from the book. If you want to pause the video now to double check all your answers, you can do. Also remember to check the spelling. Question 1 in this test is the only one that gives you two possible answers. Sometimes they will be a bit more lenient, but the rest have to be exactly as it says. So again, you can write the number 69 or the words 69, both are okay. And just to transfer your raw data score into a band score for the IELTS listening test, this is how it would be. Remember that the listening is the same for the academic or general training modules. So if you're scoring 30 points out of 40, for instance, that would get you a band 7 score. Well, thanks for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. Go over the ones that you got wrong. Try to understand how where you made the mistake. Remember that learning synonyms and antonyms are key to the listening and reading tests because they're so often used in the questions and then in the source material. So please subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Leave a comment down below with your score and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Good luck with your ongoing studies, and I will see you again next time for another IELTS video. Goodbye.